All right, so we wrap up this main event, or this fight of the night, rather, and we move on to the co-main event between Nate Diaz and Anthony Pettis. And there's a lot of hype behind this fight. Nate Diaz has been out for 3 years. People are wondering, is there going to be octagon rust? Is he going to be able to deal with the flashy style of Anthony Pettis? Who's going to be able to implement their game plan? You know, all these questions about these two stylistic matchups where you've got Anthony Pettis, who is very well, if he's working in space, he's one of the best fighters in the world. He's got an excellent submission game off his back. I think it's very underrated. And Diaz just kind of went out and put the pressure on him. And this is what I said going into the fight. I think that Anthony Pettis is a guy who you can break his will a little bit in the octagon, man. And it's not like that just happened. It's not like Diaz just put him up against the cage and that happened. You really got a fucking glimpse into how good Nate Diaz's jiu-jitsu is on Saturday night when he fought Pettis. Because like I said, Pettis is so underappreciated off of his back. He's got an excellent submission game. He's very well-rounded. I mean, and Diaz just kind of sliced through his guard. I mean, he almost got stuck in a guillotine, but as soon as Anthony Pettis put that guillotine on, I was like, good fucking luck catching Nate in that. Good luck finishing that motherfucker. Diaz sliced through his guard, took his back, and just put the fight up against the cage and turned it into the type of fight that you need to turn it into when you fight Anthony Pettis. Look, I understand that Diaz has great boxing, but Anthony Pettis has more tools available to him in the striking department that he uses better. So what do? Eliminate space. You negate the tools. You push it up against the fence. You make it dirty. You grind Pettis out, and you turn it into the kind of fight that you know Pettis struggles with. I thought that's exactly what Diaz did. I don't think that Diaz looked brilliant on the feet. I think he looked a little tired. I think that might be a little bit of octagon rust. I think he probably just the adrenaline associated with walking out and fighting a guy like Pettis who's coming off all this hype after he knocks out Stephen Thompson. It's a lot to take into consideration when you haven't done it for 3 years. Also fighting at 170, and Nate fights at 155 most of the time. I know he has fought at 70. He looked great to me, though. All things considered, he looked really good, and he had a really fucking smart game plan of just making the fight dirty. That's how you beat Pettis. If you're fighting with Pettis in space, I mean, Wonderboy Thompson's one of the best people with space and distance in the UFC. Look what Pettis was able to do to him. Pettis is just a guy who you have to be patient with. You have to consistently keep him pressed up against the cage, and you have to keep things in dirty boxing range because most of his knockouts are going to stem from things that happen at length, happen at range, you know? So Diaz had a great game plan. I'm not going to lie, that fight did not really surprise me. I dropped $100 on Nate Diaz as soon as they were even. I thought Diaz was going to be a bigger favorite. I understand why he wasn't, but just stylistically, when you look at those two, first off, it's so hard to put Nate Diaz away. I thought the odds of Anthony Pettis landing something that would hurt Nate and actually end the fight were small. And I just didn't think that Pettis was going to be able to handle the pressure and the pace that the Diaz brothers are known for their cardio. I just didn't think that Pettis... It's not that I didn't think Pettis didn't have weapons or that he could end the fight. Like, I thought there were definitely opportunities for Pettis and that there would be some chances for him to win. I just didn't think he was going to be able to control distance the whole time because Nate's too tough. Even if you are landing clean shots on him, like, you got to be able to maintain your distance. And I think that when you're hitting him with stuff and he's just walking through it, you just start going, fuck, man, what's it going to take? And then you're up against a cage and you're fighting off it and all your energy is getting sapped out of you. And you go back into the striking exchanges and you're like, oh, well, what do I do if I miss him with this shot? And he starts pressing me again. It's as much a mental game as it is a physical one. And I thought Diaz had a great game plan. He stuck to it and he went in and came out with a dominant decision after a 3-year layoff. His last fight in the UFC was a loss to Conor McGregor. And now you got to start. Let's backtrack for 1 second. I want to talk about what's probably next for Paulo Costa. You might be talking about a title shot after a performance like that. I don't know. Yoel Romero's no fucking joke. I think Costa might end up challenging the winner of Whittaker and Adesanya. I really do. And for Romero, man, I don't know. He's 42 years old. It's not like he looked bad in that fight. Like I said, I thought he won the fight as a whole. I don't know what's going to happen with him, man. It's going to be interesting to see who he fights next. But for Nate Diaz, I think the choice is obvious. It's got to be Jorge Masvidal. especially considering the performances that they just had, and they're two of them. They've both been in the game for so long, and they really will fight anybody, and they really do have that mentality, and they're two of the toughest motherfuckers, and they're two very well-rounded fighters who I think for a long time were underappreciated, and they're now just starting to get they're starting to reap the fruits of their labor. So to see them share the octagon together at a big event would be fucking awesome. I think that's the fight that you make. I wouldn't hate Nate versus Conor 3. I think that's a great fight as well. But, man, I don't know. I right now, with the current state of everything and the way that things have been going, I think Nate and Jorge is the fight to make. That fight is going to sell some. That's going to put some asses in some seats.